Jake had been driving for hours when he finally spotted the sign, the Pinewood Inn. It was a small, old-fashioned hotel off a desolate stretch of highway, the kind of place that seemed forgotten by time. He was exhausted, so he decided to stop for the night. Inside, the lobby was dimly lit and a musty smell hung in the air. An elderly woman sat behind the desk, barely glancing up as Jake approached. "Just one night," he said, handing over his credit card. The woman handed him a key without a word, her pale eyes meeting his for just a moment before she returned to whatever she had been doing. Room 314. Jake climbed the creaky stairs and walked down the long, narrow hallway. The carpet was worn, and the wallpaper was peeling in places. As he reached his room, a strange uneasiness washed over him, but he shook it off, blaming it on fatigue. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room was plain, almost sterile. Just a bed, a small desk, and a window with heavy curtains. But something felt off. The air was heavy, like it hadn't been disturbed in years. As Jake unpacked, he noticed a strange cold spot near the center of the room. No matter how many times he walked through it, the temperature dropped drastically, sending chills down his spine. Shrugging it off, Jake got ready for bed, figuring a good night's sleep would make him feel better. But as he lay down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was watching him. Hours later, Jake woke abruptly, drenched in sweat despite the room's chill. The clock on the nightstand read 3:14 a.m. That's when he heard it, a soft whisper, barely audible, coming from the corner of the room. He sat up, his heart racing, and stared into the darkness. The whispering continued, low and indistinct, like multiple voices speaking at once. It seemed to be coming from behind the closed closet door. Jake tried to calm himself, telling himself it was just his imagination. But then the door creaked open, just a crack, and the whispering grew louder. His blood turned to ice as he saw something shift inside. A shadow, darker than the surrounding darkness, slowly emerging from the closet. It moved toward him, unnaturally slow, its form undefined, shifting in the dim light. The whispering turned to soft laughter, twisted and hollow. Jake bolted out of bed, fumbling for the door. He yanked it open and rushed into the hallway, heart pounding in his chest. He glanced back, and for a split second, he saw it, something standing in the doorway of his room, its face obscured, but its eyes glowing faintly in the darkness, watching him. Without looking back again, he fled downstairs. The old woman was still at the front desk, sitting just as she had when he arrived, her expression blank. "You felt them, didn't you?" she asked quietly, not even looking up from her book. Jake stared at her, too stunned to speak. "They like to visit that room sometimes," she continued. "Room 314 has a history. People hear them, see them, but most never stay long enough to find out why." Jake didn't wait for an explanation. He grabbed his bag and drove off into the night, leaving the Pinewood Inn behind him. But even as he sped down the highway, he couldn't shake the feeling that something from that room had followed him, and that the whispering hadn't stopped.